All right, our featured topic of the week is an interesting one. Big sit. Do you the viewers know what that is? I did not know what that was when it showed up on our Google Calendar for our household. So Dustin, what is a big sit? You just got back from one this afternoon.
A big sit is an intentional social birding activity from a fixed location. So you literally sit there and try to find or hear or identify as many bird species as you can from that location. So because it's stationary, the selection of the location is really important. You usually want to do this from either an established birding hotspot or a spot that you know has potential to be a birding hotspot, but you want to create some documentation for it, or a site that's either established, a known site for birders, or one that you maybe want to publicize and get some birders to come visit for the first time. So these are typically part of a planned, organized event. So it's either a big sit day or sponsored by local bird clubs, stuff like that. And it's a little bit different. The goal is not to count every individual bird necessarily, but to identify as many species as possible. And today we had a good day.
Who organized this particular event that you went to? And you're sitting in one spot. What is the actual goal that you were trying to accomplish?
The goal is to see as many species as possible, get up to a big number of species. I was there from 5 a.m. until noon, and it was 67 species when I left. That's a pretty good day. But this event was put on by Sudbury Valley Trustees, which is a regional conservation organization in central eastern Massachusetts. And conservation groups like that are really great for connecting the super local conservation trusts, as well as stepping in for like funding and resources and strategy for land protection, especially when protection crosses multiple town boundaries, because a local conservation trust usually operates just within its particular town, but oftentimes the land that needs protection crosses more than one town, and those regional groups are really helpful. So it's good to publicize that group or publicize the specific property. This one was done at the headquarters of SVT, and it was really neat because it was near the Sudbury River. There was hill and forest and grassland open field, so a number of different habitats, which made for a good hotspot. And because their office is staffed with great naturalists, it also has a good birding resume, so to speak, a birding CV.
All right. So what about data? Like you mentioned 60 something species of birds. Did you collect the data from the groups anywhere? Like
67.
67.
The number is important.
67. All right. 67. You mentioned 67 birds.
So this data was entered into eBird and shared with all the birders that attended, or at least will be by the end of the day, because it's probably still going by the folks that are there now. So eBird is the primary objective, to get as many species as possible into there. I did not report into bird weather for reasons we'll talk about, I guess. And these typically draw all sorts of birders. So this was sponsored in part by the Boxborough Birders, of which I'm a member. Mm-hmm. It was put on by SVT. There was a group called Boston Birding Festival that had some members there. And it always attracts new birders too, because there's lots of benefit from birding with folks of all abilities.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's get into it then, I guess. What did you notice staying in one spot with 67 birds for the day?
Well, by staying in one spot, you get to really kind of be grounded and focused on the behavior and the patterns of those birds. So it's a little bit immersive because, sure, there's bluebirds, but you didn't see them nonstop. We saw a blue-winged warbler that was kind of heard over and over. So it's a good way to hone your auditory birding skills because you can hear stuff or learn from others that are hearing stuff that you might not have been hearing in the same way. And comparing notes. So you're tuning in more than usual. You really get to pay more attention to, like, are the birds feeding? Are they bringing food back and forth to a nest? And we're right at this transition point right now where a lot of birds are nesting. So it was fun seeing the foraging behavior and trying to follow them back to the areas where their local nests were, that kind of thing. Not actually following them, but visually following them. So your observation becomes deeper and less frantic than when you're hiking or chasing, moving on to the next bird. So it gives you a lot of time to interact with the other birders to get to know folks on a more personal level that you don't always get to if you're kind of on a guided bird walk.
Okay. All right. Why don't you walk us through the gear that you brought?
So I not only brought my binoculars, which I love and are great, but I also brought my old binoculars as a spare pair, because when you're doing a group birding thing, you never know if someone's going to show up and maybe forgot their binoculars, or a new birder that has an older set and really wants to be able to experience stuff through better glass. So I always have my spare binoculars now that I keep for those situations.
Which are your spare binoculars?
My spare binoculars are Nikon Monarch 5s, 10 by 42s. That means it's a 10-time magnification and that the objective lens is 42 millimeters. So that 42 millimeter is a pretty standard size for handheld binoculars. My new ones are also 10 by 42s made by Swarovski. But what's great about this is I thought these were dying and I wanted to upgrade anyway, so I invested in the Swarovskis. But then I sent my Nikons back to be repaired and they fixed them under warranty, like lifetime warranty.
Nice.
So now I have 2 good operative sets of binoculars. I keep these in my truck so that if I see something while I'm out, I'm never without my binoculars.
Talk about a bird nerd. Like,
And in addition to that, I brought my scope that I showed earlier, and you can see the scope has a much wider objective lens, but is heavier and attaches and all that kind of stuff. I actually didn't use my scope. I left it in the truck because it was nearby. That's one of the great things about a big sit is it's usually at, a fixed location, easy access to the car, that kind of stuff. So I left it in the car so that if I wanted it, I could go grab it easily, but I ended up not using it. Someone else had a scope there that was actually better than mine. And you didn't need more than one scope for 10 people on birds that are flitting all over the place.
Okay.
And of course, my tripod. And I brought my new puck that we talked about last week as well.
Were you really sitting in one spot? Was this like bird meditation? That's like, I literally picture all of you guys sitting crisscross applesauce in a field.
No, we all brought our camp chairs, or some people had like beach chairs and stuff, and set them up. This place had a building with stairs down to the field, and at the bottom of the stairs, we were set up with all our chairs and stuff. That overlooked the field and a little valley towards some bigger trees. And behind us, on the other side of the street, there was one sort of loop trail behind SVT's building. So I did walk that early in the morning with one of my birding buddies to see what we could get over in the woods also. But that was 20 minutes away from the rest of the group while we did that. But yeah, we were pretty much staying in one area. We walked around the edge of the field a little bit, but I didn't move more than 200 feet in any direction other than that one little hike.
Okay.
Oh, and I brought my camera. I had my camera with me to try to take pictures of whatever I could get. We had lots of swallows and chimney swifts, and the raptors were slow to come out. The star of the day was really a blue-winged warbler, which has a really great like beeps, beeps call. So I was able to hear that over and over hundreds and hundreds of times. So now it's ingrained in me.
Did you see him?
We did see both the male and female blue-winged warblers, but not tons. I have some okay pictures I got. We'll add them in.
Okay. What other birds did you see? Off the top of your head. Like, we don't need the list of 67. I'm sorry, birders, if I'm
totally going to read the whole list.
If you totally disagree with me on that. But you know what? Go ahead. Read as many of them as you want. Like, what do I know? Like, people watching the video are probably going to be like, what are you talking about, Lynn? I want to know all of them.
Wood duck, common yellow-throated house finch, warbling vireo, house wren, eastern phoebe, blue-winged warbler, tree swallow, wild turkey, tufted titmouse, mourning dove, American robin, rose-breasted grosbeak, gray catbird, eastern bluebird, European starling, black-capped chickadee, downy woodpecker, blue jay, chimney swift, red-winged blackbird, common grackle, pine warbler, brown-headed cowbird, chipping sparrow, eastern kingbird, song sparrow, northern cardinal, brown creeper, American goldfinch, blue-gray gnatcatcher, Carolina wren, ruby-throated hummingbird, yellow warbler, American crow, indigo bunting, mallard, Canada goose, ovenbird, barn swallow, willow, flycatcher, cedar waxwing, red-bellied woodpecker, northern flicker, white-throated sparrow, northern mockingbird, common raven, wood thrush, hermit thrush, red-eyed vireo, white-breasted nuthatch, veery, eastern wood pewee, great-crested flycatcher, scarlet tanager, Baltimore oriole, killdeer, great blue heron, swamp sparrow, osprey was our first raptor of the day at number 60, red-tailed hawk, turkey vulture, eastern towhee, house sparrow, and later we had black vulture.
I can't wait to edit this video and figure out how I'm supposed to add all these birds in.
So for of that list, I don't think anything on that list was a really great surprise. Black vulture was a good bird we wouldn't have counted on seeing, so that was a good one, particularly at a time when we had been stuck on 62 for an hour or something like that before we saw it. So that was good. Some of the surprises are maybe the birds that we did not see. We did not, as of the time I left, we hadn't yet had a Cooper's hawk or we hadn't had a lot of raptors other than red tail and the osprey. We did not have a lot of warblers I would have expected to see. They've mostly moved through. So I thought we'd at least get like blackpoll warbler. We did not have that. We had American redstart, but I would have expected a lot more of those. We only had one. So I think more notable was the stuff that didn't show up. We didn't yet have an American bald eagle by the time I left either.
Okay. How many vocalizations did you capture on the puck?
0.
Whoa. Womp womp. What happened?
So I think this is, I don't know if it's user error or what, but I need to do some research on how to better connect the puck to my phone when I'm away from the house. It's in a good way where when I plug it in here, it immediately picks up the house Wi-Fi for live viewing. And I couldn't get it to reconnect when we were out in the field, so I didn't have it listening. So I need to figure out how to either change it so that it listens and then just upload sound when I get home, or figure out the right way to get it to connect to my phone so I can do live ID on the puck. So I did rely on Merlin a little bit when we were out there. And I was out there for 7 hours. I probably could have gone to the help pages for bird weather and the puck, but I've said this. If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. When I'm out with the birds, I want to be spending time with the birds. I do not want to spend time futzing with my gear.
No, I don't blame you for that. Okay, so you mentioned to me yesterday that a big sit is a really accessible style of birding. It's fantastic if you're looking for accessibility. So for anybody watching who might have their ears perk up at that kind of acknowledgement, why is that important?
Yeah, well, because it's stationary, it doesn't require much physical strain. Not a lot of hiking, doesn't require a lot of energy consumption. So anybody who might have an injury, like me, or maybe has a disability or whatever, they're on equal footing with everyone else because they could, probably sit in the chair and participate equally as much if they wanted to, or walk as much as they wanted to in the small area. So this style of birding encourages stillness. It's good for everybody. And it often happens at a place that has some good infrastructure, facilities. There were restrooms nearby. We were close to parking for the car. Folks bring food and beverages. There was plenty of coffee and munchkins, and I made cinnamon rolls that went like hotcakes. So it was good. It was good.
If someone is listening to this and is like, wow, this sounds kind of cool, I wish they had those kinds of things near my location that I could participate in. Like, how should they start with finding an event like this?
Well,
how does it work?
Well, anybody can schedule and organize a big sit. If you have birding friends, invite them over and say, hey, we're doing a social thing. We're doing 24 hours of birding at my house, or 8 hours of birding, or whatever is right for you. I've told you before about how I started following Bill Thompson III when I was early birding. He and his wife in their house have a tall tower that was dedicated to birding. So he would sit up in the top of the tower even before dawn, listening for migrating birds going overhead. That's the extreme end. But anybody can have friends over to their yard to do a big sit.
I can't believe you haven't done this to our friends yet. Like, knowing how bird crazy you are, which is a wonderful thing to be, by the way.
Yeah, I like the concept of a big sit. I haven't managed to organize one locally, so it was fun to do this one for the first time. But they're also great with numbers, and there's a lot of information sharing that can happen when you do it through your local birding organizations. So contact them, find out if they have ever done a big sit. And most volunteer organizations are thirsting for new volunteers to do the organizational stuff. Get involved and say, hey, I'd like to organize this, and they'll get you the contacts and give you input on locations and suggestions and stuff like that. And it's a great way to meet new birders and get involved in the birding community.
And if you're going to your first one, what do you bring? It sounds like you're packing for a picnic.
Yeah, bring yourself, bring something to share.
Okay, there we go. All right, So, what do you think new birders that you saw at this event today were getting out of the event versus what were more experienced birders like yourself getting out of an event like this?
Well, I haven't spent a lot of time in the field this year, so it was good to kind of get back into the rhythm and get into the tune of GIS, the general impression of size and shape that you use for judging birds in flight, far away or nearby or whatever. So it was good to get into that stuff. It was good to be reminded of some of the key field marks from excellent birders. It was great to be in tune with, so the dawn chorus at this place was fantastic. It was almost too hard to bird by ear because so many birds were calling at the same time. It was hard to discern them. And that's one of my, not complaints, but one of the drawbacks of the puck is sometimes it hears different birds in such close succession that it mixes them together and misidentifies a sound as a species that probably isn't there. Like I think it has taken a rose-breasted grosbeak and a goldfinch together and called them an evening grosbeak. And I'm pretty sure we do not have one of those. But anyway, I digress. So it was great that way. And then just the information sharing. New birders that come along, they're learning not just about like the birds that are present, but a little bit about gear. SVT also had some binoculars available to borrow, and folks took advantage of that. But they're learning new birds, new calls, new techniques, new practices, and also about the local conservation scene. A number of people were from that local town, and by being there, they were able to be connected towards, there's an issue called the Community Preservation Act that town is specifically voting for, and it has to do with, if some of your property taxes get set aside for conservation. Getting new people in tune with the conservation message is something that just happens naturally when you're camped out at an event like that. But then, of course, learning new birds, right? That blue-winged warbler was, a star of the show for a new birder. That's a really good bird for a beginning birder to see and hear.
Okay. What about the experienced birders? What were they getting out of it?
A lot of stuff. So we were trading like photography tips with some birders that were really good, but newer in the photography end of things. Some birders were from out of town in New York City, and they were telling us about the rarities that have been showing up in New York this year. There was like a red-footed booby or something a couple weeks ago, which is crazy. Stuff like that. You start to learn about kind of the history of land and different people's knowledge of, different parcels, where the hot spots are, what fun birds they've chased lately, that sort of stuff. And a lot of like the mnemonic devices, like we were talking about indigo bunting, which to me sounds like 3 pairs of notes, like 1 1 2 2 3 3, 1 1 2 2 3 3, and someone else was like, oh, I remember that as fire, fire, where, over, there, which is easy to remember. I probably will remember that for a long time now that he's shared that. And other people like the 1 1 2 2 3 3 that I brought to the table. Everything resonates differently with people.
What's your overall kind of takeaway after going to a big sit?
I enjoy immersive experiences, and I really enjoy hanging out with other birders to learn more about them on a birding level, but also a personal level. So it was my first big sit, but I knew I would like this, and I did. So whether it's your first or your 50th big sit, I think events like this are why you go birding, and it's not just about the checklist, it's about paying attention. It's about being a part of a place and connecting with people who see the world the same way that you do.
I love that. I really love that. And if you, as you're watching, have ever joined a local birding event, whether it's a big sit or anything else, we would love to hear about it. What made it memorable for you? Are there specific birding events that you look forward to every year? Let us know. Maybe we'll put them on our list. And if you've never been to one, what's held you back? Let us know in the comments. We are always up for swapping stories, aren't we?
Sure.